Well, it's Uncommon Fossil Day, continuing the series looking at the rules of the Pokemon TCG. We need to know the rules to be able to play the game properly and to win at the game, right? So today we're taking a look at an ability's cost versus an ability's effect. So it's cost versus effect. It applies to abilities, and it also applies to other things within the game as well, such as trainer cards. So we'll be considering that extension of this concept there. So starting off with a question, whenever possible, I want to get a question that illustrates the issue at hand. This is from the Pokemon TCG Live forums, and here's what it says. I was playing a Volcarona V deck. Volcarona V has rotated. In the example, I will provide a card that has a similar attack that's in standard format. So playing a Volcarona V deck and milled my deck completely for the full attack. I used Radiant Greninja's ability to discard an extra energy, but knew I wouldn't be able to draw any cards from it, and for some reason the game froze. Now, the game shouldn't have froze. I will say that. So part of the issue is a bug within Pokemon TCG Live. That's unfortunate. I'm not sure if that bug is fixed or not, but the point here is, regardless of the bug within Live, it is a rules issue too, and this question about Radiant Greninja's ability with no cards in deck is a very important concept to understand, and it illustrates it very well. I've seen similar questions multiple times in similar fashion. So here's the answer from PokeGym, which is a place that posts the official responses from Pokemon to make them publicly available. Question here: when using Radiant Greninja's Concealed Cards ability, can I discard an energy card from my hand if there are no cards left in my deck? The answer: no. Discarding an energy card is a cost as identified by the in order to phrase, so you can't do it if you can't do the actual effect of the card. So if you can't take the effect of the card, which in this case was drawing cards, you can't pay, you're not allowed to pay the cost of that effect. So obviously, we're talking about Radiant Greninja with both the question and the answer, right? So Concealed Cards ability, I'm sure you're familiar with it, super important, but there have been other abilities in the past, and there'll be ones in the future, I am quite certain. You must discard an energy card from your hand in order to use this ability. Once during your turn, you may draw 2 cards. So in order to draw the 2 cards, you have to discard a card from hand. Even if you have cards in hand that you might want to discard, if you don't have any cards to draw, you can't use the ability. So for instance, the Hisuian Basculegion, a stage 1, has an Upstream Spirits attack. It does 20 damage for each basic energy card in your discard pile, and then you shuffle those energies back into the deck. So you would like, in that case, to get 1 more energy in the discard pile. That's another 20 damage. You're not even going to deck yourself out because those energies get shuffled back in. So you can understand why, if you're playing a deck like Hisuian Basculegion, you would like to, even if you get down to 0 cards in deck, you still would like to use Radiant Greninja's ability, but you're not allowed to do it by the rules of the game and the wording on the card, right? So ability cost and ability effect. If you can't take the effect, you can't pay the cost. This also applies to trainers as well. There are questions I've seen regarding some of these cards as well in the forums. Cycling Road is a stadium, doesn't see a ton of play, but some decks want to play it. Again, the Basculegion deck might want to play it. For instance, once during each player's turn, that player may discard a basic energy card from their hand in order to draw a card. So again, you want to either to draw the card or to get the basic energy in the deck. In the discard pile, you'd like to discard that energy. Well, sorry, not to draw a card, right? So the idea being you have no more cards in deck, but you want to get an energy in the discard pile. You like to use the stadium. You can't once there's no more cards in the deck. And similarly, Earthen Vessel, a trainer that sees a lot of play, I think a very, very good trainer. You discard a card from hand, then you search for up to 2 basic energy cards. If you don't have any cards in deck, then you can't discard a card from hand. So the same concept, there's a cost, and then there is an effect. If you can't take the effect, you're not allowed to pay the cost. So that's the ruling there. But hold on, we think we have it so simple, but what about a card such as Empoleon? This is an older card. I don't remember the set name. It's somewhere in the black and white era. It's not in the Live expanded beta, but eventually I think we'll get the full expanded format into Live, and this card will will be playable then. It's got the ability diving draw. Once during your turn, before you attack, you may discard a card from hand. If you do, draw 2 cards. So the important thing is here it's phrased differently. So you may discard a card from your hand, period. If you do, draw 2 cards. So the answer to this is different. So in this case, we can discard a card from hand even if we have no cards in deck and cannot draw any cards. Here is, once again, turning a Pokegym, their official answer question: can I use Empoleon's diving draw ability if I have no cards left in my deck and just discard a card from my hand? Answer in this case is yes, you can. The first sentence of diving draw says to discard a card from your hand. Then if you can do that, you do as much of the rest of the ability as you can, which in this case is draw no cards. So in this case, the discarding is part of the effect of the ability. It's not the cost to get the effect. So it's a little tricky, a little technical. I think probably with the current phrasing, they're not going to phrase something like this older Empoleon. They're only going to phrase it like the newer Radiant Greninja to keep things clear. At least I hope so. But you know, the exact wording of the cards is important. But the general concept is still that if you cannot take the effect, you can't pay the cost. So just keep that in mind when you play the game. Obviously, in live, hopefully it implements it properly. It's certainly not a guarantee. And obviously, if you're playing IRL, either casually with friends or in a more competitive setting, you want to know the rules so that you can win the game. So take care, have some fun, and play the Pokemon TCG.